Hello everybody, Factosaurus here, and welcome back to How Accurate Are the Dinosaurs of Jurassic World Evolution 3. And I keep saying it will not be long, but it will be every time. I had a couple of trips that I went on in between Pachycephalosaurus and this one, so that's why this took so long. And I am going on a uh, paleontology camp. Pretty much like should be the day after this video comes out. So I'll be on that, which is like around 2 weeks. So you won't get the next video until after that. So I apologize. I would like to make it a more regular schedule afterwards. I've just had a really packed schedule these last few months, so that's why they've been coming out very slowly. And fun fact, if you do the math on this, right, there's 12 months in a year, there's well over 100 animals in the game. Uh, it would take 10 years to finish the series at the rate I'm doing it. So we have to speed it up. Anyway, yep, alright, enough yapping, let's get to it. This is a double whammy for the day. Both Titanosaurus and Aquilops in the same video, because when it comes to a DLC, I will do everything that's in the DLC. But what about the Megalodon and the T-Rex? I hear you asking, dear viewer. Those are hybrids and are not real, so I won't be talking about them on this series. If you want to see me have fun with those, watch the Battle Royale video. Anyway, let's get into it. So I figured we start with Titanosaurus, since that's I'm going down the phylogenetic tree. So yeah, let's start with it. We have a bunch of them in here, but you know, let's watch one release real quick. Why don't we? Here we go. Titanosaurus, everybody. Such a stupid tail. It's a really cool tail, but it looks really dumb in this release animation. Dear God, I forget how long it takes for the sauropods to leave. This is a very nice green skin, though. I quite like it. Was it got orange fins on it, too? It's honestly not a bad skin. At least the music's good, I guess. Half this video's runtime is just gonna be this thing finishing its release animation. Is it still going? Jeez. Damn, guys, I'm sorry. We keep it going, though. We gotta bat out the runtime. We're pleased to welcome the Titanosaurus to the park. Well, here he is. Here's our Titanosaurus, along with all his friends that are here and about. Look at this. Look how huge the tail is. It's still in the hatchery. Anyway, that's not what this series is. I'm gonna be honest, I don't want to really focus on that. Let's go to one that's more open and out there, like you, I think, yeah. And your movie skin, too. So, you know, yeah. Let's get started on our usual business. Oh, look at the babies. Let's get started on our usual business on how these videos are usually working. What does Titanosaurus mean? Well, Titanosaurus means Titan lizard. So this is one of those animals where the name is the meaning. Titanosaurus means Titan lizards, but I'm going to assume this is the type species for Titanosaurus, that being Titanosaurus indicus, and indicus species name is for the country it was found in, that being India. So this is the Indian Titan lizard. Honestly, not a bad name. Titan lizard is pretty cool. Unfortunate thing about the Titan lizard name, though, is that, as I'm sure many of you might already know, Titanosaurus is an invalid genus. It is not used anymore in scientific descriptions in any sort of capacity in that matter, because it was accepted that it doesn't exist. So let's go into the history of this animal to learn why that is. Alright, so Titanosaurus history, much like Pachycephalosaurus history, from the last video in the series, it was annoyingly convoluted, no matter who describes it, and mine will be worse, so I apologize. I love their tails. Their tails will be a big subject of discussion later in this video, and why they did not have tails like this at all. But they're really cool from just a design perspective. They look very nice. From a purely in terms of animal design overall, it's great. Anywho, where were we? History, yes. So the origins of Titanosaurus start all the way back many years ago. In 1828, Dinosauria has only existed for 4 years at this point. Wow. Yeah. So the initial discovery of the holotype specimen of Titanosaurus was discovered in 1828, not by paleontologists, but actually by an exploration conducted by the East India Company Army. Now, I am no geography or history person, so correct me on this if I'm wrong, but I believe the East India Company was a colony of Britain back when before India gained its independence, I believe. If anyone knows more about history, then if I'm wrong, please correct me. But that's what I believe the East India Company is, anyway. And they were specifically there looking for petrified wood, and while they were out looking for this, they found the initial Titanosaurus fossils. Yeah. And these fossils, they kind of jumped around between locations for the following few decades. Yeah. Until eventually, around 1862, they end up being added to the fossil collection at the Indian Museum. And it's after that a guy named Richard Lydekker, I apologize, Richard Lydekker, officially, in 1877, describes Titanosaurus indicus off of the few pieces of vertebrae that the holotype consists of. So yeah, that's pretty cool. But then something bad happens. Let's go to a different one. Let's see, where's our nice green one? Oh god, there's so many. Let's go to you. I think you're a nice green one. I'm not sure. Yeah. So something happens around the early 1900s. Titanosaurus specimen is nowhere to be found. It is completely gone. And it turns out that is likely because the Indian Museum where it was kept had was very bad at keeping inventory, keeping records of the inventory that the fossil collection there had. So yeah, Titanosaurus holotype, don't know where it is. There is only a drawing of it, which I will put up on screen now. This was what Titanosaurus consisted of, at least holotype, right? It was just a couple of vertebrae. I'm unsure which vertebrae. I'm not sure if they were dorsal, caudal. I think they were dorsal. I'm not sure though. But yeah, just a couple of vertebrae. And this is one of the reasons that the great year of 2003 happens. Yeah, that's right. 2003. That year didn't come about. It wouldn't have, rather, if Titanosaurus was never initially described. Anyway, I worded that funny. That's why I made that very bad joke. In 2003, this is the dreaded year that Titanosaurus would say goodbye to its position as a valid genus. In 2003, what happens is that Titanosaurus is declared a nomen dubium for two reasons. Number one, the holotype is incredibly fragmentary, and also, just it doesn't exist. It's not around anymore. We don't know where it is. And secondly, of the pictures we have of the holotype, nothing about them is really diagnostic. There's nothing about them that's truly different from other related species. And it's because of that Titanosaurus is, to this day, considered a nomen dubium, an invalid genus, and is not used scientifically anymore. But then why would they use the name in the movie, I hear you asking, if it's been invalid for so long? And it's purely because Titanosaurus is a cool and marketable name. Titanosaurus may not be real anymore, but it has a very, very cool name, and yeah, I'd say it's marketable. Like, even Ark did it. Ark just has it as Titanosaur, so it's, like, up to interpretation, because Titanosauria is still a clade of sauropods, which we'll get to in the phylogenetics section. But yeah, Titanosauria is still a clade of sauropods, so there are still Titanosaurs, but Titanosaurus itself does not exist. So, yeah, in Ark, right, they name it Titanosaur, and it's just kind of like, I guess it's just supposed to be like, hey, whatever Titanosaur you want it to be. Argentinosaurus, Dreadnoughtus, whatever you feel. Whatever suits your mood that day. But this is just straight Titanosaurus. There's a US at the end of that. There's no... it doesn't end at the R. So this is supposed to be Titanosaurus, and why... As I just said, marketable, and they probably don't care about whether or not it's real anymore, because, you know, why would they? It's a movie. But anyway, yeah, what is Titanosaurus? Or rather, what was it before it went into oblivion and does not exist anymore? Well, Titanosaurus is, of course, a sauropod. Big, long-necked dinosaur, first and foremost, is a sauropod. Get down more specifically, it is a titanosaur, as you could probably guess from its genus name. Titanosaurus is a titanosaur. And these tails are insane, dude. It's over the friggin' other one that's sleeping here. Anyway, right, it's a titanosaur. These are the last surviving clade of sauropods. They persist throughout the Cretaceous period. There's no real evidence, I'm pretty sure, of them being in the Jurassic. I'm pretty sure the earliest fossils of titanosaurs are 136 million years ago, so that's almost 10 million years after the Jurassic period ends. So, yeah. They almost certainly probably could have had a start in the Jurassic period, possibly, but we don't have anything of that, as far as I'm aware, at least. Yeah. So yeah, these are the last guys. Diplodocioids and macronarians are long gone by the time these guys become the dominant sauropod on the planet. That's pretty much it for yeah, phylogenetics. What are titanos? In terms of description of titanosaurs, they kind of have a similar body plan to most sauropods. You know, big, stacky limbs, long neck. Head shape is honestly not like this. We'll get to that. And then fairly long tails. Not nearly as long as this. Longer than the macronarians, but shorter than diplodocioids. Anywho, and a lot of them also had osteoderms, which I think is a huge missed opportunity to not put on on this thing for the design. I like the fins, I think they're cool, but come on, like, these things had osteoderms, and you didn't do it with Dreadnoughtus, and you had another Titanosaur on your hands, and you had the chance to do it, but I don't know why, but I guess they just decided, you know what, it's just simply not worth it, we're not going to do it. Let's grab a different one, here we go. Kind of like this one over here. Oh, never mind. You're in the broad daylight. I like you. Oh yeah, but they have osteoderms. The first titanosaur to really have osteoderms, or to really show evidence, sorry, of osteoderms, would be Saltosaurus. So yeah, it's not that many others had them because of this. And I really am astounded that the designers did chose. Wow, I'm bad at wording today. Chose not to give this thing osteoderms. They love to give everything osteoderms. Allosaurus, Giganotosaurus. What else? Baryonyx, right? We love to just give things that don't have osteoderms. It's just the newest hype thing. It's so hip with the kids these days to make everything look so spiky and cool. So I'm surprised when there's a thing that actually has them, they go, no. My guess is because it's a big herbivore, it can't look scary. That's probably why. I don't know. on the topic, I almost completely forgot about this, but when Titanosaurus was declared invalid, there was question about whether Titanosauria, the clade, was also invalid because of this. And eventually, a couple years later, I think in 2004, the revised definition of it was anything that is, or sorry, any sauropod that is more closely related to Saltosaurus than it is to Brachiosaurus. Originally, during the discussion of reassigning a description to what a titanosaur is, one of the things that they brought up was, okay, what if it was anything that's more closely related to Saltosaurus than to Andysaurus? Which is funny because Andysaurus is now considered a basal titanosaur. So, yeah. Yeah. Anywho, that's what happened with Titanosauria. Almost got invalidated as well, but then they just kind of redecided, remade a definition for it, and you're going to sleep. So we need a new one. Oh yeah, look at that. Oh no! They just finished doing the social animation. That sucks. Oh man. Oh well. We'll get to see it one day. One last thing with phylogeny before we move on to just the general design of this animal is, ooh, that's cool if you're like yellow. Titanosaurus, with it being such an old dinosaur, if you know anything about old dinosaurs, is that quite a few of them become something known as a wastebasket taxon. And what a wastebasket taxon is just basically, it's a thing that's used to just put in new organisms that we just really don't know where they belong. You're like, similar enough, same thing. So Titanosaurus was one of those. And there are quite a bit of species that got thrown into the Titanosaurus genus. And all of these, I'm going to recite to you all of them, and exactly what happened to them, the current status of where they stand, whether they also became invalidated along with Indicus, or if they have become assigned to new genera. But yeah, so yeah, let's just get started. We have Titanosaurus indicus, obviously, as we just discussed. This whole section is, of course, a nomen dubium, declared so in 2003. Along with that, we have Titanosaurus blandfordi, which is also now considered a nomen dubium. We have Titanosaurus araucanicus, which has now been assigned to Lapledosaurus. Titanosaurus rahioliensis, which is only teeth, and based on these could be an intermediate neosauropod because of similarities to the teeth of Nigersaurus. We have Titanosaurus colberti, which has become Icysaurus. Titanosaurus australis, which has now become Neoquensaurus. Titanosaurus nanus, which is a nomen dubium. Titanosaurus robustus, which has also become Neoquensaurus. Titanosaurus madagascariensis, which there are two specimens of them, one of which became a nomen dubium, and the other was reassigned to Rapidosaurus. We have Titanosaurus phallidae, which it's very fragmentary, so it's hard to tell, but it could be synonymous with either Tangveosaurus or Hubeosaurus. Titanosaurus valdensis, which became Luticosaurus, but then Luticosaurus became a nomen dubium. So I think that's funny. It came so close to escaping the invalidation. It's like, yes, I got reassigned, and then that became a nomen dubium anyway. Titanosaurus lydekeri, which also became Luticosaurus, only to become invalidated seconds later. And finally, we have Titanosaurus dacus, which has now become Magyrosaurus. So yeah, those are all of them, quite a bit. A couple of them are invalidated, a bunch became some species that you may actually know, more specifically Icysaurus and Rapidosaurus. Some of you probably know those ones. A couple of those that I had no idea existed, such as Neoquensaurus, so I'm not sure if I butchered the name or not. But yeah. I kind of wish Megalosaurus was still in the game, purely because, one, that's the first dinosaur, a lot of great history with it, but two, it was also an enormous wastebasket taxon at a time, and it had like 30-something species assigned to it total throughout the history that it's been described, which is absolutely insane. But yeah, that's all the Titanosaurus that have ever been, quite a few. And now let's move on to the actual design itself. Uh, this is something that I don't feel like I state enough in these videos, but I like almost all the designs. All the designs we've talked about so far, I like them in-game. This is just purely to be an educational experience and to show how accurate these models truly are to what the animal was like in life. So yeah, whenever I'm making these videos, it's not because I hate the designs, except for like 2 times. I'm looking at you, Deinonychus. Right? I don't like that, but most of these, including this one, I actually quite love them as just animal designs. But in terms of accuracy, they have their flaws and their downfalls. But yeah, overall not bad. That's all I just wanted to say before we get into this. So let's start, shall we? Overall, in terms of general build, like specifically body and neck, sure, that's a Titanosaur. They did hold themselves like this. They had their heads held up high. They had the big, huge forelimbs. However, when you get more into the nitty-gritty of it, the more apparent it becomes that this is nowhere close to the real animal. Which is kind of hard to do, let's be honest, right? With Titanosaurs not even being valid, and with all of it having ever really been was just vertebrae. But, you know, we're just going to base this off of other Titanosaurs, like the general Titanosaur body plan. So let's start with something that most people probably don't realize, and it's that the head is not what Titanosaur heads look like. It's very square, very boxy. It has this weird bulbous part. I feel like this was more so inspired off of macronarians than titanosaurs. Macronarians, especially Camarasaurus, stuff like that, have these boxy heads. Titanosaurs have more slimmed down heads, honestly, more similar to diplodocioids than macronarians, which is funny because most of their body plan is much more similar to macronarians. But no, the head is much more akin to stuff like Diplodocus or Apatosaurus, right? It's this more slender. I don't know how to call it, like slender, right? It's more sloped, if you will, downwards, right? One thing I will applaud them for, though, is getting the nostrils in the correct placement. Oh, yelling at the children, okay. You got the nostrils in the correct placement, which is very nice. Right closer down to the mouth rather than on top of the head. This is already going to be a long video since we're talking about 2 different things, so I will save that for another video in case I run out of things to talk about for a sauropod. For a different one, rather. Yeah. So that's something that I don't think most people realize when it comes to talking about inaccuracies of this design is the head. Head is not right. Secondly, the fins. The fins are kind of cool. Oh, I don't want to do that. Let's go up here. Fins are kind of cool, right? They have the fun things. Like, look at them. This one over here is doing a great thing. We got the fins flaring out. Let's see if I can pause it. Here we go. Yeah, all flared out, all fun and cool. Sauropods didn't have these. None of them did. I assume this is based upon Amargasaurus with its, what do you call those? Those aren't fins. Sails? I think sails is the word. My mind just blanked there for a second, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, the sails on Amargasaurus's neck. Probably based around those. This whole thing is kind of just an amalgamation of every cool sauropod type imaginable. They just threw it all into one design, and honestly, for it kind of works. I'm surprised how well combining every sauropod in existence together works. To be fair, they all most of them look very similar to each other, especially among the groups of each other. What's happening here? What are the babbies doing? Oh, this one's doing it now too. Right, yeah. And then now, great thing to talk about right now, since these guys are doing it, is the tails. So let's watch what the tails do. And if you've seen Jurassic World Rebirth, the film, you know what they do. But, like, look at this. Watch this. They're all wrapping around each other, right? Doing these insane loopy-loos, these curvy shapes, twirling motion. which looks really cool. I love when they do that. It is awesome. But it is impossible for an animal to do that. Now, most of you probably know that the tail, Titanosaurs, uh, did have thinner tail, have this whip-like tail, but they were short whip-like tails, right? If I were to like do where they're actually ending, it'd probably be closer to around right here for like the average. Some got a little longer, but around here is where the average titanosaur from between around here is where the average titanosaur tail would end. But this design obviously keeps it way going, and this is where the sauropod amalgamation comes in. This is obviously based on diplodocioids, who are notorious for their huge, long, whip-like tails that they have. Oh, let's go. We're going to see another one, which is great. I love that they just keep on doing it. So that way I can just keep talking about the tail thing with a nice visual aid to go along with it. Right? So yeah, obviously they didn't have these huge whip-like tails, but it's not just the fact that they have the whip-like tails, it's just how they move in general. Animals with long tails, they don't move them like this. They are still fairly stiff. And these types of movements, these long, like, graceful, swirly motions that they do, while it looks incredibly cool, it is biomechanically impossible for an animal to do that. And there's a couple reasons for why. And one of them is because of these things called facet joints, and these are just kind of, whoa. These are there to prevent curvature in the tail, right? There's also, you know, the thing with, there's ligaments and tendons that are designed to, like, that can't, like, bend in certain areas. And then if they do this, right, even if they could do this, right, ligaments are allowing this to happen and all this fun stuff. Tendons are stretching beyond what they should. You know, if this was still at least a possibility of happening, right, they are capable, what would likely happen is because of how weird and these motions are, these weird shapes that shouldn't be happening, there's a possibility it could lead to permanent nerve damage as well as permanent blood vessel damage. There could be like cutoffs to circulation towards the tip of the tail. Stuff like that could happen because of the weird way in which it's bending, which isn't natural. So yeah. Well, once again, it looks really cool for a movie scene and a social animation in this game. Animal did not do that because it would hurt itself, and it also just straight up couldn't because of, you know, the tendons and stuff. So yeah. I will say though, while researching for this video, something interesting I found out about titanosaur anatomy is they lose something called hypospheme hypantrum articulations. And these basically prevent rotation. Okay? These are things in between the vertebrae that prevent huge rotation, and they lose these. So I'm sure now you're thinking, then okay, then why couldn't they do this weird stuff if they don't have those that would allow for more rotation, which is correct. However, it was in their dorsal vertebrae, so their back, not their caudal vertebrae, which are the tail vertebrae. I almost guarantee you they learned that and went, that's really cool. Let's do something with the tail. Because, like, sure, you could do some weird thing with the back, but it's not going to look as graceful or anything. So there's a possibility that it was based in science, but they took a big liberty in just assigning it to a different vertebra than what the actual animal, the correct vertebra that the actual animal had it in. As far as I know, the caudal vertebrae don't lose these. But yeah, I think that's really cool. Steve Buscemi maybe brought that up to them. I know he was the paleontological supervisor on this movie. Steve Buscemi's great. He wrote a great book called The Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs. Really good. So yeah, he was a paleontological supervisor. Perhaps he mentioned that to them. And they went, that's cool, we're going to make it their tail instead. Which, honestly, that's how you take science and make a creative design out of it. There's also a chance that that's just a complete coincidence that that's a thing. But yeah, pretty cool. And then the final thing anatomy-wise, really, that I'd like to talk about with Titanosaurus is the fact... what is this? That's fun. We need one in the, right here. Okay. Let's wait. You're actually probably a lot better, this one over here. So, notice the feet. The back feet are, sorry. Let's get into capture mode. The back feet are actually very good. Titanosaurs and just sauropods in general have really weird feet. But Titanosaurs keep this general trend with sauropod feet in the back, where the claws do this weird curve back thing. I believe the main reason for why we think they had these weird backward-facing claws on their hind limbs is because they used them to, like, dig out nests behind them. I believe that's the reason we think. They had those, but yeah, they had these really weird-looking feet. And a lot of the time, they look really weird in the front as well. Like, they don't have pads on the front. It would have just been a weird kidney bean shape. And a lot of the time, they have only, like, one claw. But Titanosaurs went a step further, and they don't have phalanges on their front limbs. Which is insanity. Your phalanges are your fingers, by the way. So, imagine you just have no fingers. Which is insane. And then, another crazy weird thing is that Titanosaurs also don't have carpals. No, which are the bones in your hand, right? The only Titanosaur that has carpals is a Gyrosaurus. That's the only one that does have carpals on its hand. The rest of them don't. They just have insanely long metacarpals. Which is insane. Right? They're walking on their metacarpals. No fingers or toes, whatever you want to call it. Nothing on them. It's just the metacarpals supporting them all. Which is insane. Really cool, though. It's ridiculous, insane, but it's really cool, though, still. And, yeah, that's most of it that I really want to talk about with Titanosaurus, because, you know, it's not a real animal. There's not much to really talk about itself. Just kind of have to be generalized with it. But the last thing I will say, since we did just bring up nests, and because we do have juveniles in this game, is that, this is just a problem for sauropods in general in this game, but we'll talk about for Titanosaurus specifically, right? The sauropod babies, including this Titanosaurus baby right here, are way too huge. They come out of the nest like this. Now, comparatively to the Titanosaurus adults in this game, they are small, yes. However, if you put these next to things, like, I'm pretty sure this thing's the same size as an Allosaurus. Which, no, sauropod babies, despite being the young versions of the largest land animals to ever walk on this planet, were ridiculously small. Incredibly small, tiny little things. In terms of egg sizes for Titanosaur eggs, they range between 4.3 to 4.7 inches in diameter. Less than half a foot. Which is insane, right? These little things start out, these huge, the biggest animals to ever walk on our planet start off like a couple feet long at most, maybe. Which is insane. And now that we're on the topic of size, I remembered the official size statements for the Titanosaurus. I don't know if that's the official size statement in the game. I do not want to check, because I don't know where I'd find that in this game. But the official mass statement for Titanosaurus, at least for the Jurassic World Rebirth film, is 11 tons. That's a large T-Rex. uh, and what's insane is that these Titanosaurs in the film, they're much closer to the real animal, to a real Titanosaurian size in this game. But in the film, they're like the size of Godzilla. They're kaijus in Rebirth. So they're like double, maybe even triple the size they should be, but they still only weigh 11 tons. The Titanosaurs range between like 60 to 80 tons. I'm pretty sure some even upper end estimates put them at 100 tons for the biggest individuals. Which is insane for a land animal. These were pushing the limits of how big you could truly be on land. It's insane. But no, apparently the Godzilla-sized Titanosaurus only weighs 11 tons, which some T-Rexes could probably get to. Just remember that. Glad I did, because I've always thought that was ridiculous and hilarious. That it's such a low... That is the biggest lowball in history. But then again, the Mutodon also weighs, like, what, like 5,000 pounds? Is that what they said? Or 5 tons? Didn't they say that? Isn't the Mutodon officially 5 tons? Which is ridiculous, right? Largest flying animal, Hatzegopteryx, was around 500 pounds. Not even half a ton. A quarter of a ton. At least an imperial ton. Which is insane, right? Yeah. Size estimates for this movie were god-awful and all over the place. But, yeah, okay. After that rant, I believe that's actually everything I have to say on the Titanosaurus. We're not going to go into the species viewer since there are multiple animals in this video, so we're just going to give it its ranking right here. And I'm going to be honest, I really have zero clue what to do here, because I did not think of a ranking before going into this. I just did the research and went in. So... Really going to have to think on this, because I really have no idea. I'm going to be honest, right? Other than, like, just the general body plan, this is not very close at all. I'm going to give Titanosaurus a 5 out of 10 for accuracy. Mainly just because, as I just said, really it is only the general body of the animal that is Titanosaurian. The rest is whatever they just threw together because they thought it looked cool. They did not have these huge tails, no fins, head shape is wrong, the feet are wrong, a lot of stuff is biomechanically impossible with the tails, babies are way too big, feet are wrong, I think I already said that, sorry. And the mass, the size estimates for these things are ridiculous. So yeah, 5 out of 10. A perfect middle-of-the-road design. If you squint at it, that's a Titanosaur. You look more than squinting, it's not. So I think a 5 is a perfectly reasonable ranking for this thing. So now, with that said, let's move on to the Aqualops. Alright, on to part 2 of the video, let's look at Aqualops coming out of the hatchery. Look at these little guys. Oh, they're so adorable. Oh, jeez, look at this. You can't even see them. There you go. There's Dolores. The textures on these are really unreal. Wow. I'm actually astounded by this. I have not gotten a good look at the Aqualops in this game yet, and the textures on it are actually really nice. Okay, wow. So yeah, let's get on with it. What does Aqualops mean? Aqualops means eagle face, and there's only one species of Aqualops, and that is Aqualops americanus, which, as you probably guess, means the American eagle face. It's actually not named American because of the eagle face part. It's for a different reason that we'll get to, but yeah. What's funny, I think is hilarious, is that we talked about, if you include this video, we talked about 5 animals in this series so far, and not a single one of them has had a species name that isn't dedicated to a place yet. Yeah, hopefully we'll change that soon. Let's break the streak. which would be insane if we managed to do that until we've gotten every single animal in the game that has a species name that refers to a place. Who knows? Probably won't happen, but it could. Anyway, Aqualops. Aqualops, there's not a lot to talk about, and it's not because it's not, like, truly interesting, but it's just because of how recent of an animal it was. So yeah, the initial discovery of the Aqualops specimen was, it was actually discovered back in 1997 by paleontologist Scott Madsen. And it wasn't until very recently, in 2014, that it was actually described as a new species, that of course being Aqualops. Or rather, that would be genus, new species Aqualops americanus. That would be the species. But yeah, so yeah, very recent animal. However, it is actually fairly interesting, and I highly doubt the scientific excitement about this thing is why they put it in, but I also don't know why the cuteness factor would be why they put it in, and I'm just going to say it right now. Aqualops, I don't think it's necessarily an ugly animal, but here, just take a look at this thing. This is the real Aqualops. I wouldn't describe this thing as cute. This was the animal you chose to be your baby Yoda? It's a bit of a weird choice. Obviously, it doesn't look anything like that in the movie, or, of course, obviously, and by correlation, in this game either. Right? Look at it. They did do some heavy plastic surgery on the Aqualops to get it to not look like a scary turkey. But yeah, wow, what are we doing here? Oh yeah, let's talk about environment, because they did in fact not live in a big sandy thing. I just did that for a lot of this enclosure because I would like to be able to actually see them, because these are the smallest animals in the entire game. They are ridiculous. I would like to be able to see my precious little animals. That's a nice color scheme. Yeah, so these guys were discovered in the Cloverleaf Formation, which I don't think a lot of people may know by name, but there are quite a few semi-famous animals from this formation, including a couple from this game, namely Sauropelta and Acrocanthosaurus. So we will get to see that formation in later videos in the series when we talk about both of those, and you may even see Aqualops in the background. Probably not, because it's like an inch tall. And it was a huge floodplain, so there will be a lot of grass and it will disappear, but it'll be there. It'll be there. This won't be the last you see of Aqualops. You'll get to see it at least maybe twice if you can somehow spot it in the grass. Yeah, that's where it's from. And now that I just said that, look, there's one in the background over there. Now that I just said that, I realized I completely neglected to talk about where Titanosaurus was found, so we're just going to do that real quick. That was in the Lamenta Formation, which also does not match the habitat I gave them. Obviously, you know, for these series, I make the actual formations as true to life as I can to what the animal actually was living in. But of course, for this DLC, I just chose the Rebirth, one of the new Rebirth maps, to use it on, and then just put them all here, and just recreated a scene from Rebirth. Of course, the only scene that they're in, the big long grass field scene. The Lamenta Formation was much more like a either semi-arid or maybe even slightly tropical. So I don't know if it. I don't think it would have had these large grassy plains in it. So yeah, neither of these habitats are accurate to what the animal would have had in life, but you know, necessary to recreate movie scenes, and also in case of Aqualops to see the animal. Anywho, done with that rant. Now let's get back onto Aqualops. Alright, we already said half of Aqualops. Like I said, there's really nothing. It doesn't have a particularly long history. It's just discovered in 1997, described in 2014. That's its history, because it's not that long. And also, because it's so recent, there's not a lot scientifically to talk about. There is a little bit, though, so we'll do that right now. The biggest thing about Aqualops is the fact that it was discovered in North America. Which is actually very interesting. Now, Aqualops, and specifically because of the time in which it lived, so Aqualops lived somewhere between 104 and 109 million years ago in the Cretaceous period. Now, this is really interesting because all other ceratopsians from this time frame, uh, they are all in Asia. Aquilops is in North America, which is really interesting. And yeah, so this is a very basal animal. And in phylogenetic studies of it, it gets put as being, I believe the second most basal Neoceratopsian there is. So yeah, this is a very, very old thing. Uh, very kickstarty. And basically that proves that there was probably a big migration from Asia to North America around that early Cretaceous time frame. So yeah, that's pretty cool. That's the most important part scientifically about Aquilops, and that's also where the Americana species name comes from. It's not because they named it Eagle Face and Eagle America Raw Screech. It's because of the fact that it's the uh, oldest known ceratopsian from North America, which is pretty cool. Now, there was a bit of uh, question as to whether or not this thing was really as basal as we think it is, uh, due to the fact that this guy was a subadult. There's only one specimen of Aquilops. It's the type specimen. Put it on screen now. This is it, and it's this. However, it is probably a subadult. Okay, it's guessed that it'd be around 60% of the size that it was, but anyway, we'll get to size in a second because, as we've said multiple times, this thing is very tiny in the game. Uh, um, I'm sorry, I just completely lost track of where I was going. Yes. Apparently, what I've learned is that some animals actually, especially when they're younger, tend to show more basal traits of their respective clade. Uh, but then they did some accounting for how the animal could have possibly changed ontogenetically as it matured and grew, right? And it found that even so, it still retained a lot of these basal traits throughout a lot of them. So yeah, Aquilops very basal, and North American no less. So very, very cool in terms of that. Uh, yeah. And then another thing, let's talk about design-wise. Design-wise, there's not a lot here, right? Other than that, I don't believe Aquilops was believed to be primarily quadrupedal. I think it is more so a bipedal animal. So I don't know why they made it like that in this game. It does kind of do a sentry duty thing, where it just kind of stands there. It's kind of a different one. We've been on this one for a while. Ooh, nice lovely green one. With blue and orange. This looks very nice. Yeah. Let's talk about the horns. Yeah, let's talk about the horns, right? Uh, Aquilops did have this horn on the front of its face. It did have this. It didn't have this other horn that they gave on the top of it. I don't know why they did it. Probably just to make it a slightly more interesting. Which, I mean, I guess I think it'd be more unique if it just had the one, right? Ceratopsians are kind of known for having a bunch of horns on their faces. It'd be be more of a standout if it only had one horn, like Aquilops does in life. But yeah, what was this horn for? We don't really know. From what I can tell, the biggest guesses are either just for species identification, and also possibly for some sort of mating ritual type thing. Uh, I don't think there's any reason to suggest that it was for any like thing that they were eating, because like the beak was very curved down and sharp like an eagle, which of course is why it got its name. Uh, so yeah, that was used for tearing through tougher vegetation, slicing through it. The horn probably didn't help with that at all, so the horn is a bit of a mystery, but it did have it, and it's pretty cool. Is that really it? I just realized that I kind of just talked everything that there is about Aquilops. Because, I mean, like, look at it. Oh, this is a little baby one. Aw. I love... Oh, it hops. That's fun. I completely forgot there's babies because Aquilops is already small. And these are even smaller. You know what? There you go, size. Aquilops, at least the specimen we have. Keep in mind this is a subadult. But to be fair, it's the only one they really had to go off when designing the animal for the movie. So yeah. Aquilops, the specimen we have, is around 2 feet long. It is only the skull. I don't believe there's any postcranial material to it, but based on the skull and based on related species, it's assumed that it probably was around 2 feet in length and weighed around 3 pounds. So yes, a very, very, very tiny animal it was. So yeah, that explains why it's so small in game. Just wanted to quickly draw attention to this very nice purple and green one that I like. Very much so. I kind of wish I could get them doing the little sentry duty thing. I don't think I'll be able to, but, you know, that's fine. Don't really need to, just would be cool to get on camera. But, yeah. I do think that's honestly it, yeah. What's funny is that this is probably the shortest video in the series by far. This is 100% the shortest video in the series by far. Yeah, which is hilarious because it's the first one in which we're talking about multiple animals in one video. But the inherent problem, right, is that, oh, here you go, look at the sentry dude, and that is a beautiful skin, I love it. Hold up, we're gonna focus on you now, I love you. Yeah, they do the sentry duty thing, like meerkats do, where they just kind of stand up and look around, have a good time. I believe that's also an idle animation they do, not just for the social, but yeah. Geez, the texture on these guys is amazing. Yeah, where was I? Yeah. First video with multiple animals in it, and it's probably the shortest one. So, yeah. Anyway, almost completely forgot to give Aqualops a ranking there. Let's do that now. There's nothing inherently wrong with this. Sure, it's quadrupedal, probably wasn't. Its head is definitely made more cutified to Baby Yoda it, to make it their Baby Yoda, as I said earlier. And it has an extra horn that there's no evidence of it having. But other than that, there's nothing, like, heinously wrong with this. The frill, especially on the males, is, a bit large, but that's really nitpicky of me to say. Doesn't have any, like, quilly integument, which a lot of early ceratopsians probably had. Even a lot of more derived ones probably had it too. So it could probably have used that. And once again, that's me getting even more nitpicky, especially considering Aqualops is just a skull. So, yeah. Aqualops, I think I'm going to give a 7 out of 10. Because for what it is, yes, that's definitely... You know what? 7.5. I will give it a 7.5. For what it is, yes, that is Aqualops. There's like three things, two of which are very small, that make it different from the other ones. So yeah, 7.5 out of 10 is my final ranking for the accuracy of Aqualops in Jurassic World Evolution 3. And with that, we have come to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. There is no wheel at the end of this one to spin because the next animal was determined last time in the Pachycephalosaurus video. That will be Ornithomimus whenever that comes out. Right, because I just made this because the DLC came out. Why not get it over with right now? Don't add more things to the wheel than there already are being added every month, because Frontier just needs to add 1 billion new dinosaurs for free every month, even though they're not really new, so there's no point in calling true focus to them. Yeah, but for DLCs, this will continue to be a trend. I will just completely neglect what the wheel said is next, and I will hop straight into the DLC animals. Yeah. Anywho, no wheel, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.